Lizzie looked at the van. It seemed as if someone had taken the time to smash his fist on every part of the car, even the windows. She looked up at the roof, where a sheep was trussed to the luggage rack. She lowered her eyes and saw the bodies of people squashed next to each other. She exhaled, took one last look at the sisters, the dense foliage behind them, and climbed into the van. This was it, the start of a new life. She sat next to a middle-aged man who was topped with a straw hat. He snored by the window, his hands clasped over his distended belly. She wanted to shake him awake to ask him to switch places so she didn't miss a single thing on the way to Accra. The van bumped as it hit a crater in the road. Lizzie felt her abdomen sink and rise. The man's head rolled from the window and landed on top of her head. The straw hat caught in her hair, which she had combed into a puff. She tried to untangle the hat. The man mumbled.
Sir,
Lizzie said. A snore escaped his lips. She shook his shoulder.
What is it?
The man said, his left eye fluttering rapidly.
Sorry to wake you up, sir, but your hat is stuck in my hair.
Oh.
He scoffed.
That's why you're waking me up?
He yanked his hat. Lizzie winced, sure he'd torn some of her hair, but she didn't complain. She smiled at him, hoping she could cast her legendary charm on him.
Sir,
she squeaked.
I've never been to Accra. Can I please sit by the window?
No,
he said.
First you wake me up, and now you want to take my seat? Impossible.
Sorry for disturbing you,
she said.
Accra?
The man mumbled as he went back to sleep.
There's nothing you can do.
The sound of his snore floated up and settled like a thick cloud above him and Lizzie. The sky brightened, turning turquoise, bringing with it birds chirping with morning energy.
For the independence celebrations, they say the Queen herself will be coming,
shouted a man sitting in the back.
Don't lie,
a woman yelled back at him. Her voice was deeper than his.
The Queen won't be coming. Where do you get your news from? The Duchess of Kent is coming.
Was I talking to you?
The man inquired. Lizzie turned around. She saw the man, dressed in a black and white cloth, his mouth shaped into a round pout, staring at a big woman sitting in front of him. The woman looked straight ahead, the skin on her forehead creased into a frown.
Yes, you were,
she said finally.
And even if you weren't, stop spreading wrong information.
Look forward and mind your own business,
the man shouted.
This country is not ready.
Another man said.
Your Prime Minister doesn't want to work with his opposition like the NLN. I smell trouble ahead for us. No peace.
Keep your tolly to yourself, bush Ashanti liar,
the woman yelled. Lizzie looked forward and smiled. This was what she hoped Accra would be full of. People with opinions who weren't afraid to air them. Sure, Mother Constance was full of opinions, but she seemed apologetic for even owning them to begin with. Lizzie stretched her neck to see what was going on outside the window. A fat mother rat scuttled along the roadside, its 5 baby rats in tow. The kaya trees that silhouetted the road earlier had disappeared, giving way to smaller, narrower trees. She looked at her cantankerous neighbor. A silvery glob of saliva danced around his lips, threatening to fall onto his shirt. She closed her eyes. The bus rattled violently, and its engine petered out.
Hey, driver!
A woman shouted.
I want to live till independence.
The driver tried the ignition. The engine's parts ground against each other but would not start. He mumbled to a man sitting to his left.
Brothers and sisters,
the driver said.
Please, bear with us.
Please, hurry up.
The woman continued.
I want to get to Accra for Independence Day.
Oh, ho!
The man in the black and white cloth shouted. Lizzie recognized his whiny voice.
That is not till March.
Was I talking to you?
2 men got down from the van. Lizzie looked out the window. One man walked behind the van, the other stood by the driver's seat. She strained her neck to see him better. He bent his body and placed his palms on the door. His calves were taut. He arched his feet. She could feel his energy pulsing through his arms as he began to push. The driver started the ignition. She saw the man's feet lift off the ground. The engine started. People in the van clapped, and the two men got back in. Lizzie opened her bag and pulled out the letter the Accra Nursing School had sent her. She unfolded it. Her directions were spelled out.
Walk toward the Kumasi-bound buses. Women selling watermelons usually sit near that exit. Walk out through that exit. I'll be waiting for you by a blue and white Volkswagen van.
She felt her neighbor's gaze, but thought she was imagining things. She looked at him and he was wide awake and gaping at her.
Is this really your first trip to Accra?
He asked, licking the whitened corners of his mouth.
Yes.
She said.
Then, my dear, the window seat is all yours.
He said. Lizzie raised her brows at him, surprised at his change of heart.
Thank you so much, sir.
There is not much to see, but since it's your first time.
He pointed at his crutch and smiled. Lizzie wondered how she was going to get over him, especially since he wasn't making any effort to move.
How do we do this?
She asked.
Just climb over me.
She picked up her bag and stood up, pressing the metal roof with the palm of her right hand. She waited for him to slide over. He was riveted in place.
Can you please move now?
She asked him, realizing that her buttocks were level with his face.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
He said. She saw him shift. She lifted her right leg over his legs. As she was about to sit, she felt him pinch the left cheek of her buttocks.
Why did you do that?
She asked quietly, not exactly wanting to cause a scene.
What?
He said, grinning.
You wanted the seat or I needed to get something in return?
She sat down in a huff and wrapped her arms tightly around her bag. The man chuckled. She looked outside the window, wondering what she'd done to deserve this molestation. All she wanted to do was see Accra. The streets became more organized, grid-like.
Here is your Accra,
Her perverted, cantankerous neighbor said. The van drove through into a walled bus station.